Good morning, everybody. Lee Brower here, and welcome to this week's edition of Meaningful Monday. I am grateful to be here, and I am glad to be here. Entitlement. Are you entitled? Am I entitled? Are you raising a generation of entitled children? Well, in some respects, aren't we all entitled? Aren't we all entitled to the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness? Aren't we all entitled as God's children to find personal happiness and well-being and satisfaction in our lives? Aren't we all entitled to build families? Aren't we all entitled to be able to grow and develop ourselves and become powerful? And yet, entitlement in some respects, if you look at the definition that's in Webster, entitlement is the fact of having the right to something. That's okay. But where it's bad is it becomes the belief that one is inherently deserving of special privileges or special treatment that don't belong to others. That's where it becomes negative. You might say that that type of entitlement is an attitude of personal entitlement, an attitude that assumes that you should be treated special. But really, that type of entitlement is a tool of ungratefulness. It's not a tool of gratitude. It's a tool of ungratefulness, and it's the enemy of gratitude. It's the opposite of being responsible or of being self-reliant. It comes in many forms. Sometimes it comes because we were born into a certain family or into a certain country. It may become because of our economic status, our race, memberships in associations, even our religion. It can be those that feel they deserve special treatment because they were born into a family with a rich or famous relative. On the other hand, contrast that with, it could also be the entitlement attitude that comes from being an heir to generations of receiving special treatment from another rich uncle, Uncle Sam. So you see, entitlement is an attitude that covers both spectrums, from being rich to being poor and to almost every category you can think of. The bad entitlement is the entitlement where we feel that we deserve something above and beyond what others deserve, and where it takes away or robs from our opportunity to grow and to have self-reliance. And even though we don't see ourselves as entitled, we have to ask ourselves, are we contributing to entitlement? Unknowingly developing patterns of entitlement, not only in ourselves, but maybe in our families and those that we associate with. After my grandmother died, I was on a plane, and I wasn't in a particularly good mood to engage in a conversation, but there was a distinguished gentleman sitting alongside of me, and it didn't take too long before we started talking, and he asked me, "What is it that you do?" And I responded by saying, I build bridges. I build bridges that transport the very best of families into future generations. And he looked confused and he said, you mean you do estate planning? And I said, before I could answer, he said, well, I've done my estate planning. And I said, really? Congratulations. Tell me what you've done. And he says, well, just recently I finished doing some planning. I set up some trusts that will take care of my children and my grandchildren. My grandchildren, I've taken care of all of their education. My grandchildren, I've also provided them with a new home. As soon as they graduate, they'll each have their own home. And I sat there in a kind of a meditative state for a second, and I finally looked up at him and I said, so what you're telling me is you've stolen from them. And he looked at me and he said, stolen from them? I haven't stolen from them. I gave to them. Well, have you stolen from them? Have you robbed from them the opportunity to be able to develop for themselves this enormous pride, this enormous learning that comes from doing some things for themselves? To maybe collaborate with you, to collaborate with their parents, to maybe learn from you and with you, and for themselves, to develop that level of self-esteem, to have that pride? Isn't that what made you great? Some of the struggles and the challenges? Isn't that what made you great? So in essence, you've replaced a spirit of empowerment, a spirit of gratitude, and you've replaced it with a tool of entitlement. Wow, he looked at me in kind of shock, but we had a great discussion. It went on from there, and he left with some great ideas. But you know, your child gets an allowance. He puts it in his pocket. He's going out playing, and he loses it. He comes back sobbing to you. And your heart breaks, and you want to help him. And you've got the money in your pocket. So the question is, How can I teach them in this moment? How can I keep them in gratitude, and how can I empower them? Or do I just reach in my pocket and replace that money? Maybe it's their homework. They come into you with their homework. They can't get something. They don't understand it, but you can understand it. You start going through it and you think, well, I can do that. I can help them with this project. Well, they're so busy. These teachers give them so much to do. Maybe what I can do is I'll work on this project so they can work on this one, and together they'll have it. And maybe they'll get better grades that way too, because that's important. Are we missing it? Are we entitling them as we go through it? Maybe it's a coworker. Somebody that you work with, that they become dependent upon you because they know if they go to you that they can count on you to take care of it for them. And you miss the opportunity to develop patterns of empowerment and strength and replace it with patterns of entitlement. When you step in and do things for others that they could learn from and that they could do for themselves, maybe even fail for themselves, are you contributing to an attitude of entitlement? That attitude that's devoid of any moral muscular strength that will not only weaken them, but also has an impact on you and an impact on society, because it weakens all of us. So our question for you, the question for you this week is, how can I eliminate that special attitude of entitlement in my life? And how can I help eliminate it in the lives of others? Can I look at myself and say, how have I been contributing to that? And is there a way that I could replace that with an attitude of gratitude and an attitude of empowerment? So the empowering question is, what can I do today to eliminate entitlement in my life and replace it with responsibility, self-reliance, gratitude, and empowerment? I hope you have a wonderful week. I'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.